What if I told you that there's a smart home sensor that could solve probably all your major issues? Not turn the lights off when you're sitting perfectly still, not turn off the HVAC if you haven't moved in a minute. Well, there's just the solution for that. That's the LinknLink eMotion Pro. This is a budget-friendly option that you're not going to miss because it can do all of those things, so stay tuned. Welcome back to Josh's Smart Home. If you're new here, I've been building out my smart home now for about 10 years, and I want to share with you what I've learned along the way. So let's get to it. For full transparency, I do want to let you know that LinknLink did provide this free of charge, but they're not monitoring anything I say, and this is my full and honest opinion. So you probably have some of these, some generic motion sensors, and I am a big fan overall of motion sensors, but there's one huge issue with these. They only detect motion. So when you're sitting on the couch or watching a movie in the movie theater, or we have a bar area at our house, if we're just sitting there, talking and watching some TV, what tends to happen is this: the lights go out. Annoying, right? And that's where the presence sensors come in. This LinknLink eMotion Pro not only detects the motion, but it also detects human presence. So you can just be sitting still and it can detect whether you're there or not, preventing all of these hassles. The eMotion Pro uses 24 gigahertz millimeter wave radar technology, and don't be afraid of the technical jargon there. You really don't need to know too much about it. Really, the big takeaway is that instead of using infrared that uses that to track you to see if you're moving or not, this little thing sends out micrometer wave technology that bounces off of things and can tell if you have, very minimal movement, like breathing or small movements, so that it knows that you're there and you don't have to worry about the light shutting off or HVAC shutting off on you. This gives it incredible advantages. It means you can be sitting completely still and it will still know you're there. You could be on the other side of a piece of furniture or even a thin wall, and it can know you are there and it won't turn off the lights. Furthermore, it can tell distance, so you can have different zones set up. So if you're maybe back here at the back of the theater, it would keep these lights on, but it would allow the other lights to turn off, versus if you're up there and you have the other lights on, it could keep them on, or it could tell if there's anybody in the theater at all. There's so many possibilities with these flexible requirements. Let's get this thing unboxed and give you my initial impressions. So we're going to start right here, and we have the unit itself, and this thing is very compact, so it won't be an eyesore in your house. And next we have the user guide here, so we can set that aside for now. We have the stand that appears to be, it's flexible and can stand up so you can have different angles and move it around. And finally, we have the USB cable. So it is USB-A to USB-C right in the box. There is no power adapter though, so you're going to have to provide your own or find a place to plug in the USB-A or provide another line to the USB-C on the device. Setup for this is super straightforward. It uses the 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, so you don't need any extra hub or anything else for this to work if you're using it with the Google Home or the Amazon Assistant. If you are using it with Home Assistant, you're going to have that integration with MQTT for your advanced users, and we'll talk about that in just a bit. So let's put this thing to the test. I have it set up here in the home theater, right over here to the side, and I'm going to start with scenario 1, just staying still for 30 seconds and making sure it still sees me. Well, it passed that with flying colors. As you can see, the person was detected the whole time. Next, I'm going to do scenario 2. So I'm going to go into the presence sensor information and look at the zones and the information that's provided here. So you can see it says I'm active about a meter away, which does appear to be, pretty close and accurate here. So I'm going to do some things. I'm going to first of all move away and see what it does here. If it identifies that I'm moving away, and it does. So it's moving it away and still shows active about 3 meters away, which is probably about the right distance as I'm just outside of the camera area here. And as I move back closer, you can see it's adjusting back and it knows that I'm getting closer, and it even says current state, which is approaching there. So pretty accurate and really, really good at tracking the distance. And then scenario 3 is one that I can't quite demonstrate yet. And that's because there's going to be a future firmware update, according to LinknLink, that is going to allow this to be an IR blaster as well. So we could have it sitting in this room and detecting whether or not there's people in here. And if not, it could turn off the mini split behind me. And if there's people in here, it could turn it on. So that's a really cool aspect, because in this room, we don't need the mini split to run all the time, but we do want to keep it cool and comfortable when there's a bunch of people in here as well. So how can this integrate directly in your smart home? Well, as you can see from the app itself, it actually is very intuitive and very easy to follow with some basic automations there, but you can go much further. With Google Home, you can see that the brightness, the presence, and even the zones are exposed there. So you can utilize those in automations, either in Google Home or the Amazon Assistant. So here you can see a simple automation in Google Home. If the occupancy of the presence sensor is occupied, it can turn on the theater lights, the front lights, the back lights, and set the step lights to 1%. And to get everything set up in Home Assistant, you have to have the MQTT broker on Home Assistant, and you get everything set up in the LinknLink app here. So you go into the device, you click the 3 dots at the top right, you hit MQTT connection, and you complete everything here to get all of your devices exposed directly in Home Assistant. Now let's break down the pros and cons of the LinknLink eMotion Pro. Well, the first one is the great presence detection. It does a great job, even if you're sitting still. No issues at all from what I've experienced where it gave false positives or false negatives for the motion. Next is the price. It's about 25 bucks, and you really can't beat that. Next thing is the Wi-Fi. It uses the 2.4 gigahertz, no other hub required. And furthermore, it goes into the integrations with Google Home, the Amazon Assistant, or even Home Assistant if you're a super power user like me. Finally, it's super compact, and with that upcoming firmware update, you'll be able to use the IR blaster, which is super cool and makes it an all-in-one device at a super affordable price. Now, let's get to the cons. First, it is 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi. I did list that in the pros, but that's also a con. It's not Z-Wave, it's not Zigbee, and it doesn't have any of the other advanced integrations, so it is just on your Wi-Fi. Next, we have the firmware updates. It's important to make sure you keep it updated at all times, but a few of the earlier versions, I heard of people having issues and bricked devices. More recent, it seems like there's no issues with these, and I did install the firmware update, no issue at all with mine, but having to make sure you go back and do those firmware updates and having pending items that are still dependent on a future firmware update, that is a cautionary tale there. So if you're only looking for the IR blaster part, I wouldn't be looking at this device, because you want to make sure you have the abilities when you buy the device. So the presence detector is definitely why you'd want this device at the time, and having the idea that the IR blaster is coming. Finally, we have the issue that it is only USB-C. There's no battery option. With that being said, that's pretty typical of the presence sensor, so I won't hold that one against it. So to sum it up, the LinknLink eMotion Pro is an amazing device for its price. I definitely recommend looking into this if you have a need for a presence sensor and you want to save some money, because this is much more affordable than some of the other ones that I've seen out there, and it seems to do a really great job. Let me know in the comments section below what your biggest hurdles are in your smart home, so if it doesn't get addressed with this item, I can try to make a future video to help you out. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss future videos. I'll see you in the next one.